So one more time, hello and welcome to the RPG Academy podcast Twitch channel. My name is Michael, and we're here tonight for another episode of Detention Live. Joining me, as always, of course, is Chris. Chris, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
And joining us tonight as our special bonus guest co-host is Alex, a.k.a. Alex the Humanoid. So, Alex, go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Hey, everyone. How are you all doing tonight? I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
I hope so. We are excited as well. For anyone who might be watching now or in the future who isn't already familiar with you or your work, give us the quick elevator pitch. Who are you? What do you do?
I am Alex. I am a content creator and RPG writer and FLGS owner out in the Seattle area. So I co-wrote and created Identeco, which if you go back, you can see on the RPG Academy podcast from like 5 years ago.
I think longer than that, actually. Maybe I don't know. Maybe
It might have been. Anyway, it was a while ago. And so I also do actual play podcasts with some of the folks affiliated with the RPG Academy and Redemption. And then I said I own a game store out here in the Seattle area.
Yeah, I think per capita, there are more Identeco Chaos Inc. plugs on our channel than anything else, because almost every guest we have on is in some way related to your show. So hopefully people are already fully aware, but just in case we've missed a few people, let's send them there again. So where should they go to check out your stuff?
That would be twitch.tv/Identeco, or if you want to watch back episodes, it's youtube.com/Identeco.
Excellent. Gotta love to get in that unique URL.
Yep.
So, all right. So we're going to do Detention Live. This is sort of our loose format talk show. We're here to talk about RPG stuff, maybe some individual family stuff, whatever we really want to share with people. We're going to do some silly improv games. And hopefully, as always, at least somewhere in this conversation, there'll be something one of us says that is interesting enough to justify the time we're going to spend that might help you do something fun or interesting at your table. So we're going to start with extracurricular. Again, this is where we talk about what we've been up to recently. It can be books, movies, TV, songs, games, whatever you feel like sharing. Chris, buddy, I'll start with you. What you been up to lately?
Mostly ruining my posture by spending hours playing Diablo 4.
Okay, you're still on that train, huh?
Yep. Got my level 56 ice sorcerer running around just shredding things apart and just having a good time with it. Other than that, just the usual work, scout activities. Every now and then hang out with the wife when she lets me.
All right. Have you got your giant Galactus yet?
I didn't get the Galactus.
Oh, okay. Because I saw something on the Kickstarter, but those were starting to ship.
I couldn't pull the trigger on the extra $200 for an extra miniature and one extra set of little 3 or 4 adventures. I'm like, somebody will just post the adventure and I can use a stuffed animal.
Fair enough. For anyone who doesn't know, we're talking about the Marvel Zombicide game that was kickstarted about a year ago now. Both Chris and I spent stupid amounts of money on that one. Chris also spent the extra Wave 1 shipping, so he's already got a lot of it. I have none of it, but I should start getting some stuff. So by Catacon this year, I should have my copies.
I'm waiting to play that more.
Well, we got the faculty retreat coming up not that long ago.
Well, I'll bring it.
All right. Excellent. All right. And then Alex, I'll go to you next, buddy. What you been up to lately you want to share with people?
Work, more work.
Consistency. Yeah. It's key.
Consistency, content creation. And then obviously for gaming side, it's summer release season. So a lot of the major publishers are in the middle of doing their summer product dumps, being like, hey, look at the new shinies. Oh,
yep.
So, and then right now everybody's hunting for the greatest shiny out of the Lord of the Rings Magic set. I don't know if you guys have kept up on what they did there, but
so I mentioned this just a few weeks ago. I played Arena like religiously every single day. I did every challenge. I did the weekly challenges, whatever. Like I did not miss more than like maybe once or twice, well over a year, just every single 365. I was putting the time in and I just cold quit turkey. I still really enjoyed it. I just realized I was spending too much time. It had become so important that I was not dropping other things, but it was just spreading me thin. It was like starting to cause anxiety because it's like, well, I definitely am going to do the magic, but I still have to do this and this and this. And so I just like sort of like a mental health self-care sort of thing. I'm like, you know what? It's fun, but it has started to stop being as much fun. So I stopped 2 sets ago, I think. But I have to say that this Lord of the Rings stuff has got me really curious. I really want to play again, but I'm going to refrain because
So
I think I need to stick away. But I might buy a pack or two, kind of like when you go buy, like I don't play the lottery, but when it's like at $1 billion, I'll go play, I'll put $20 just once every 5 years. I might buy 2 packs of cards for the chance of winning a $2 million card.
I was saying, so that's the big one is I don't know if you guys have heard, but they published a single One Ring card. There is one.
There's
That's
one.
It. They printed one. And everybody and their mother is looking for that card.
It's like the golden ticket for Willy Wonka, but there's not 8 of them. There's just one.
One. I still stand by my theory that it will never, ever be found. It will disappear to the ether. Some kid's going to buy a collector's pack who's 11 on clearance at a Fred Meyer in Ohio in 6 months, and it will end up in their pocket. Mom will wash it, and it will just disappear. I'm really convinced it's gone. So yeah, most of that. I haven't been catching up on shows or stuff. I have been trying to catch up on movies.
Okay.
My Spider-Verse is really my highlight this year.
Oh, so good, so good.
So I did also love the little cameo at the end of Flash. I was like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but this is absolutely, especially for a 90s, like going back to the 90s Batman. It's like, oh, we're going back to the death of the Schumacher Batman.
Yeah, we have a Discord. We plug it here on occasion. I think it's a great little corner of the internet. I truly do. It's basically my favorite people in the world congregate there, and we talk about nerdy stuff. So it's a great place for me. And we talked about the Flash, and we had the same conversations that are happening in the larger Twitter sphere and online. Some people didn't want to watch it because of Ezra. Some people were excited. Some people liked it. Some people didn't like it. But I liked it more than I expected. I'm pretty much on the board. I don't like Zack Snyder as a director. Like I pretty much have disliked almost all of the DCU movies. And even the ones I liked were almost always with a caveat. So I went into it with a pretty low bar, but it definitely met or exceeded that. But I really like that ending. Like my favorite, it's the best joke in the whole movie is he goes, "Who the F is this?" And it's just like, it's delivered well. It's the perfect timing. And I don't know. I mean, the biggest thing I have now is I kind of wish Aquaman 2 wasn't coming out because I really think that should be the end of that universe. And the Aquaman 2 is just kind of like this weird, like, vestigial tale that's just sort of there. Vestigial, however you say that. It doesn't. Is it part of the thing? Is it not? Like, from what I'm hearing, basically, if it makes $1 billion like the first one, they're going to be like, yay, hey, he's still in it. He's still the same Aquaman, but if it doesn't, then it doesn't count. So it's just weird.
Yeah. I'm not sure why they didn't end it with Flash, but they're going to keep going. They want that Aquaman money. I don't know how well Aquaman's going to do.
Yeah. I do not think it's going to do anything like the first one.
But hey, at least we know who the new Superman and Lois are going to be.
Yeah, just announced yesterday, a couple days ago. Night. I'm completely unfamiliar with either of them, but in James Gunn, I trust.
I love the girl they're getting for Lois, the woman they're getting for Lois was on that show Mrs. Maisel on Prime, and I watched that with my wife a lot. And if she plays that character the way she played the character she played in Mrs. Maisel, you're going to get a gutsy, tough, kick you in the face Lois Lane,
which is what we should have.
So I'm excited for that casting.
Right. So you're, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but as far as I know, I think you're the only person we've ever had on who is a game store owner and operator. So I would be curious, just give us a little, like, what's the state of the union when it comes to running your own game store?
It's tough. It's one of those things that all of us, I think, kind of dream about growing up. We're like, man, that'd be so much fun to own a game store. How great would that be? And then you do it. And it's kind of like politics and legislation. Like it's kind of crappy when you see how the sausage gets made.
Yeah.
Kind of at every level of this industry. You have to work really hard to keep your joy in the hobbies that you loved before. You're like, I love board games. Oh boy. And it's just that's really kind of the tough part. There are still great days, and I get to play with that, and we've got a great community of people out here who are hyper loyal to our store, and we've got a great space and friendly folks, and it's really inclusive and just great. A lot of people get to learn a lot of new things. We get a lot of casual players who are trying to get into new games. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of indie RPGs here, as many as I can. Obviously, I come out of that space, and I'm
Sure.
like, getting into game stores is the hardest thing for an indie RPG to do. So I buy direct from them as much as I can, and I try and push them that direction. And I'm starting to see traction with people getting away from kind of the big three. So
who would you say? I'm immediately I think of D&D and Pathfinder, but who's the third in that sandwich?
Um,
I don't know why I said
anything-
sandwich. That was a weird metaphor. I was thinking like never mind. Whatever. Who was the third in that menage a trois?
The third one in that menage a trois would be anything in the Fate system.
Oh, okay.
We get a lot of Fate stuff, like a lot of Fate stuff. PBTA, anything Fate and PBTA is really,
Okay.
really big. So again, there's a lot of people who are willing to try like weird stuff and different stuff. I actually got a couple of things, you know, that have done pretty well. So yeah, that's kind of the state. It's just the industry's in a tough spot right now.
Mhm.
It's tabletop is trying to figure out what the next step is. There's a lot of people in the industry that know the industry's not growing as fast as it could be. But nobody really knows what that next, like what's going to drive tabletop to the spot that it needs to be.
All right. So other than don't do it, if you could give one piece of advice to someone out there who's thinking about maybe I want to follow my dream and be a game store owner, what's the one piece of advice other than don't do it? Be rich.
Realize that you're never ever going to please everyone. One of the mistakes that I think we made early was we kept trying to be everything to everyone, and we tried to make everybody, you know, every disparate commuting group and, you know, every one of our customers, you know, like be everything to all of them, and you just can't do it. And if you try to do that, you're going to put yourself in a position where you're not making anybody happy.
Mm. All right. I like that advice. Do me one favor.
Yes.
Put the pen further away from you, because every now and then you get it and you start clicking
Oh,
it.
I'm clicking
would
yes.
Drive me bananas. So as for myself, I just did an episode, actually came out, I think today, I went to Origins. It's one of our game conventions down here in Ohio, which I'm in Kentucky now, but I used to be in Ohio. It's not that far from me. It's one of the larger, I think it's like third or fourth largest. It was, it's this year. I haven't seen the numbers. Like, I don't think they posted them, but I'm going to guess they were around 15,000 would be my guess of attendees. I think they got upwards almost close to 20 just before COVID. And then like all of us who run conventions were kind of rebuilding. So it's a big convention, but it's like a third of the size of like Gen Con. I had a really good time, got to play in a lot of different RPGs, which is kind of my goal. I had mostly really good experiences, and even the experience that was bad, there was some good stories, and like there was a reason why it was bad, which again, if anybody cares, I won't rehash all of it, but you can go listen to the episode I did. But then Michael, who's also part of the RPG Academy, he doesn't do a lot with us, but he goes to conventions, he helps at Academaniacs. He got to introduce his nephew to conventions. This was the first time his nephew's ever gone. It's the first time his nephew's ever role played like that. So he had like basically Saturday was introduce the nephew to conventions, and it was really cool talking to him about that and that process, and just talk about bringing, you know, new kids into the hobby. So that was a very special thing for him, and I got to live vicariously a little bit through him. So that was really nice as well. And then TV wise, I've been watching The Bear. I don't know if any of you are watching that. I loved season 1. Like it kind of came out of nowhere, and it was just some of the most compelling TV I've ever watched. And season 2 just started. I think it's bingeable. I think it's all the episodes are out, but I've been parsing them out, so I've only seen the first 2. The intensity level is down, but it's still very compelling and enjoyable. So I'm definitely ready to continue on. And then the other thing, actually, Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 2 just came out. The first 2 episodes are out. And I loved season 1. It was some of the best Star Trek I've ever seen. And I'm a longtime Star Trek nerd. And season 2 is off to just as good of a start. I posted on Twitter. I saw some similar reactions. The beginning of episode 2, it's very clear what they're doing. Like, it's like, oh, this is what you're doing. Okay, I guess. And it almost felt like a little bit like pandering. Like it was just so clearly what they were trying to show. And by the end of it, I was like sobbing, going, I want to join Starfleet. I want to help people. So they did the obvious thing, but they executed at such a freaking high level that it still worked. So even though 2 minutes into that episode, I could have told you how it was going to end and been completely correct in like broad strokes, the execution was so high. I was there for it. Absolutely loved it. Highest recommend.
If you like the bear, the actor that's in it, have you watched Shameless?
No, I have not.
He does a phenomenal job in that show.
Okay. I don't, is that the one where they're like kind of like a redneck family or something? It's like a down on their luck, trashy family
No.
sort of thing.
South side of Chicago.
Okay.
Mom and dad dad especially made some really bad decisions, and basically they are a really unique family.
Okay. So maybe I got the wrong impressions from because I think I remember seeing the, like the advertising for it, but it never really connected to me. And it actually reminds me of the show, and I can't remember the name of it, but this was a show that was on Fox like 15 years ago. And it had the lady in it who was in the Goonies. She was like Andy's best friend. And it was like this really like so I guess like lower income family. And then the oldest son had a baby out of wedlock, and it's all about raising the baby. I know I'm doing a terrible job of describing the show, but it's something my wife watched, and we watched all the time, and it was really, really funny. But that show looked like more like a highbrow version of the other show. So I don't know, something about it just didn't connect with me. But if it's got that dude in it, and it's, if you're putting anywhere in the same category as Barrett, it definitely is worth a look.
I think so. And it wasn't like, if you watch the little Netflix blip, it won't bring you in. You'll think the same, or I thought the same thing you did of, oh, this is just a poor, trashy family, going to be dumb humor. But it actually has a really good story, and a lot of the episodes will hit you pretty hard.
Okay.
And then the next episode make you laugh really hard. Like they do a good job of that, the emotional roller coaster, I call it. Of, you like it 1 minute, you hate it the next, you like it the next.
Okay.
I shouldn't say you hate it. You hate what the characters are doing, but it's done well.
Okay. So it turns out it was Raising Hope was the show I was thinking of, which was created by Greg Garcia, who also did My Name is Earl, which is another show that I really liked. And basically there's like this down on his luck stoner kid living in his parents' house, has a one-night stand with an escaped felon, not realizing who she is, and then she gets pregnant, and so he ends up having to raise the baby because the mom is still serving her time in prison. And it's very silly, but very funny. So, all right. So with that out of the way, we're going to go into our first improv game, and this is 10 things. This is where we're going to take basically, the idea is you're going to prompt each other to come up with a list that fits the prompt. The idea of the game is immediacy is better than accuracy. So a list you come up with quickly makes more sense and is better in terms of the game than like taking a long time and creating a list that actually makes sense. Alex, you are the guest tonight, so you can choose. Would you like to go first in terms of prompting Chris or I, or would you like to go first in receiving a prompt and giving your list?
Let me get prompted first. I got to think of a good prompt for you all.
Okay. So you had mentioned, again, you're a big fan of indie games. You try to push them at the game store. So give me 10 indie RPGs that you would like to see more people playing.
I Hunt.
1.
The Well.
2.
Cursebrand Chronicles.
3.
Valor.
4.
Pasión de las Pasiones.
5.
What's that one called? Obviously, Identeco.
6.
I always want more of those.
I appreciate the discretion of not naming it first, but I expected it to be on the list.
Good 10 good ones. See, the problem is like they're all out there. I'm like, what do I have out there in the store? What am I at, 6?
Yes.
Clever Girl.
7.
Mall Kids.
8.
Kids on Bikes.
9.
And Coyote and Crow.
10. That was, in fact, a list of 10 things. I'm getting in just now. Did I just say Action 12 Cinema would have been your 11th pick?
That would have been my 11th pick. But it's so big right behind it. And I kickstarted the book. So
yeah. You are. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the way.
In his defense, it's not in his store yet.
That's true. That is
That's true.
Absolutely.
It will
Actually,
be.
it did just get turned over to layout. So the editing's done. It's now in layout's hand. Hopefully by the end of July, we will be heading to the printer. So, all right. So Alex, so since I prompted you the way the chain will work, you will prompt Chris. So you give him his prompt.
This is tough. 10 best bad movies.
Ooh.
Jiu-Jitsu.
What?
Hated that movie. I mean, let's go with some of the old classics. Used to have Big Trouble in Little China.
2.
Let's see like the second Predator.
3.
That was bad. Shaolin Soccer.
4.
It's not good. What was the other? Oh, we'll go old school. Barbarians.
5.
That was not good. The Destroyer.
6.
Bad. Evil Dead.
7.
Any of them. They were bad movies. Just
But-
done well.
But good.
Yeah.
No,
Beastmaster.
8.
One of my favorites. Wasn't done well. Red Sonja.
9.
And let's see. What was it when Ragnarok.
10.
there we go.
That was in fact a list of 10 things. All righty, Chris. So you will prompt me, sir.
All right. Let's see. We'll go something I think might be right up your alley. 10 things you want for lunch.
Okay. Chicken tikka masala.
1.
Extra side of garlic naan, extra garlic.
2.
Chinese food, because I do not have a Chinese food within 30 minutes of me, and it's pissing me off.
What?
3.
Yes, Jets Pizza. Love me some Jets Pizza.
4.
A really good PB&J.
5.
A steak, well, medium rare.
6.
Hearty bowl of soup.
7.
A Philly cheesesteak sandwich.
8.
Spaghetti with extra mushrooms.
9.
And a giant donut.
10.
Yay!
Hey.
Yay.
That was in fact a list of 10 things. All right, so now we're going to move into used books. This is generally the sort of the meat and potatoes of the show, and the idea here is we're going to look back at a campaign that one of us has played in or ran, and the idea is we're going to look for lessons learned. Maybe something we tried that went really well that we took into other games. Maybe something we tried that didn't go so well, and we learned from it, we modified it, or we avoided it. Alex, you are the guest tonight. Do you have a campaign story you can share with us, please?
Yeah. So when I was young, I started not with traditional RPGs. I started with Palladium stuff. Specifically, I started with Ninjas and Super Spies, and I ran quickly into Rifts, which anybody who has seen Rifts knows that it is gonzo role playing. When people ask me to describe it, I'm like, it's everything. They threw everything in the pot, and it's all there. And so when I was young, especially like 15, 16, I would run these campaigns. I was kind of the forever GM of our little group of hooligans. And if you know anything about Risk, it literally has so many little tweaked out rules that allow you to do just about everything. And I, being the game runner that I wanted to be at 16, let them do, like, you can go anywhere. It's a big sandbox, and I'll just go. And I ended up with campaigns where they were creating self-replicating Star Destroyers.
As you do.
Yeah. As you do, Star Destroyers that just built themselves out in space. There was the four-armed Ninja Borg who was also a Cosmonite, who was also, it was just, and it got so out of control that like any idea of like balancing or trying to figure out like how to write a good encounter or any of that became so difficult, just completely bonkers. Because I could never, even as the gamer, somebody who had all the books, was reading them all, it's so hard to keep up on so many different little rules intricacies. And I had one of those guys in my campaign that had like close to an eidetic memory and could tell you what page that rule from that book was. And, and obviously all of us being young kids, we were also all very stubborn. There was a lot of fights around the table about the rules and things like that. And so it showed me, it was just, again, with no defined scope or guidelines or like rails or anything. Like people are like, you don't want it to be on rails. And I'm like, yes, but you don't want to get it completely just completely like go wherever, like, because they can get really out of control really fast.
Yep. So, Chris, I always feel like I dominate too much. So I'm gonna let you start here. So with that in mind, and do you have any experience with rifts yourself? Any, like sympathy for Alex and his plight, and then kind of roll into any thoughts you have on modulating a game where the players have so much power that it kind of not like toughness, but just have so much like narrative control that it's hard to build encounters, or anywhere you'd like to take that Alex gave us.
I've played Rifts, I think, a couple times, mostly like at conventions. And I think we tried it once and we made characters. And I think it was such a long process. I went, okay, yeah, maybe this isn't for me. Because I'm right, like you said, there's everything in there. So trying to make the character was just tedious in a way.
It's one of the crunchiest character creation processes out there. Full stop.
Yeah. GURPS might be the one that might beat it, but we can get into that debate later. I agree that if you let players have too much freedom, that encounters can become very tough, especially if they pull in their knowledge, like you said, of the books. Like the player that's then my nemesis at the table is supposed like, well, on page 43 of the DMG, that is this, and it says its weaknesses are this. So I pull this out, and you're like, okay, well, your character has no idea what that would be.
Yeah.
Your character's never seen this. You're a farmer with a pitchfork. Why would you know that?
Well, this also back in the night before we really had a concept of metagaming, or before there was like Reddit and things where I could be like, help,
Yeah. For sure. All you could do is talk to your friends who are going to tell you, oh, everything's great because, I'm 4th level with a +5 Vorpal sword of slaying everything, and they're the hero. And they've probably got the sash of seduction on as well, and they're seducing every barmaid. Because that's what you want to do when you're 16.
Yes.
I'll tell you, even to this day, I think encounters can sometimes be hard to plan unless you do put them on a little bit of rails. Because if you give them too much freedom and they get too much power, it's hard to balance that encounter. Like, look at Redemption. It's 8 years ago, and the last encounter I planned, they brought in an extra droid and an extra farmer and wiped the encounter out in like 2 rounds, which I had expected it to go 4 or 5 rounds. And, just because they managed to, through role playing, randomly found a droid. Thank you, Destiny points, for making life more difficult. But that's what they're there for. I think there is a balance of putting them on the rails and letting them have freedom too. I'm still learning that balance. And I think that varies from table to table. I don't like if Michael and I are thrown on a table and you say, hey, go do whatever you want. We're going to just start role playing about what color is your pants on your character and, what's on the wall. And we're going to just start randomly doing odd things because it entertains us. And the GM's probably like, okay, remember there's this thing you're supposed to go do?
Right.
Like, yeah, but you told us we had freedom. So why would we go do that?
That's dangerous. I want to open up a shop.
Yeah. We could role play opening up a game store.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where we make everybody happy because we have the sashes of seduction on.
That's right. Oh, yeah. Ooh la la.
It's not really a game store at that point then. But anyways.
If I had magic items, it would make this a lot easier. That's what I need. Magic items.
It solves so many problems and creates none.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I guess the thing that I'm kind of thinking of, and again, these are all just half thought out thoughts, so please understand that I'm probably wrong about most of them. And I'm trying to do the cool thing where I can, there we go, highlight the thing that we're in. Actually, we're not there anymore. We're not there. We're there. It's almost like there's 2 games in a way. And some of it might be age and or experience, maybe a little bit of both. But certainly when I was younger, when we first started playing, we were roughly 12. As best I can remember, we were around 12 years old. And there was absolutely a power fantasy that I got fun from creating characters and making them more powerful. Like that was definitely a thing. Even like as a dyed in the wool role player that I claimed to be, when I first started playing, I also did DMPCs. I had characters in the game, which I now wouldn't do. And I can remember, like, we would all make concessions to each other. Like, well, they will let my character do this thing if their character can do this thing. And they were all things to make us more powerful than they were supposed to be, whether it was raising our stats or magic items that gave us extra attacks or bonuses or that kind of thing. And I totally had fun building those characters and creating those characters, and in my head thinking about the adventures that those characters would have. But that fun never really translated to the actual game because the game has rules and we are breaking them. So it's either not fun because we're walking through every encounter like there's nothing, which can be fun for a little while, or as the DM, I'm making things so hard to try to balance out that the monster I picked one shot, one kills someone, because this was back in the day when I didn't, think about modifying rolls behind the screen. So I don't have an answer to it, but I do think that those are different types of fun that are both valid, but they don't always cross and play together well. And I don't know if there's a game that manages that. I don't think Rift would be the one I would pick for it.
No, and I guess the thing that takes out of it is, like, I did end up coming back to Rifts later after I left it for a very long time. I was like, okay. And I think what it is like you said, Michael, it's age and experience, but it's also realizing, like, you can put reasonable boundaries on a campaign or a set of sessions or even a one shot and go, look, this is where, and it's about communicating with your table, which is something that I think again, 16, when I was really doing the Rift stuff heavily, I didn't know how to do, was be like, hey, let's all talk about boundaries and what's going to make this fun for everyone. I also think there was a cultural thing, and I don't know if you saw this in the game stores you were in back then, but like, there was definitely a player versus GM kind of mentality a lot that I don't see nearly as prevalently anymore. And I watch a lot of, role-playing games happening, but back then, like, it seems like there was much more like the players are trying to win. And to do that, they have to beat the DM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's where I got lucky. My first GM was very much, this is our story. You're supposed to beat my monsters. They're there for you to win. He was more excited to see the story unfold. And as he explained it, I'm more excited to see my plan work out than you guys fail. Because I had planned on you guys being successful and getting the magic item and then moving on to the next thing. And that's what helped me when I was younger.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It wasn't until I got to college and started playing that's where the player versus GM thing kind of showed up. Especially if the GM was trying to impress somebody, then it got even worse. But yeah, I agree with that. That was a huge thing. And I'm glad it's gone, because that's, as a GM, it makes it so much easier if it's just us telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you come up with a brilliant idea that I didn't think of, and I'm like, sweet, let's go with that instead. I sometimes tell people when they ask me, I go, it may seem like lazy DJing if you scrap your ideas and just follow somebody else's. It's not. It actually takes more effort in a way for you to think about what their idea is and make it work. At least for me.
Yeah, and it's fun for me because I get to be a player for a moment. I get to go, I didn't know this was going to happen, but now I get to play with this idea and roll it into what I was doing. And it's sort of like crossing the boundaries in my mind of what a player normally does as the DM. I present, and then they get to interact with it. But when I get to do that the other way, that's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love getting good creative curveballs during a session are a blast. Because they're like, oh, okay, well, we're going this way now. That's like you said, it's like being a player. It's very fun. You get to put your mind not into the, what is the plan I wrote down, but the, now I have to react to this new thing.
Mm-hmm. I kind of circling back to just thinking through my younger days, I think a lot of my DM versus the player mentality was around the fact because I was so forgiving as a DM when it came to building characters and letting them have these magic items, partially because it was in my best interest because that meant my character could do the same thing, that it was very difficult for me to create encounters. So the beating wasn't, hey, I want my story. It was, well, I gave them a magic weapon that does +5 damage, so I must give my bad guy armor that is resistant to that. Or they're ethereal, so your attacks don't hit, or like I had to do something to counteract what I had already given them. And I've said this before, I'm a big improv focused DM, but the never say no thing has been taken out of context quite a lot, I think. I think it's very appropriate to say no a lot before the game starts. Like when you're doing your session 0, Sting, everyone take a drink, whether that's one session or, months of like chat, but like, hey, can we play this particular species? Yes or no? Can we play this class? Can I start with a magic item? All those things are like, sometimes it's just no. If I'm running a campaign that's based around the fact that their dwarves died 1,000 years ago and now there's rumors of a new dwarf, you can't play a dwarf because that's not what this campaign's about. So it's okay to say no to you. But when we're in the game and you're like, hey, I have this stupid idea, could it work? Maybe. Let's find out. I'm not going to say no to that. That's where I don't think the no's come from. But I will say in general, just a general piece of advice, if you do need to design encounters to kind of counteract what a character or player can do, I would advise you, rather than taking away the abilities that they have, like, well, normally I get 4 attacks, but bam, now you don't. Or I have a plus magic sword, well, bam, you're in a non-magic zone. I think it's better to create circumstances where those advantages are just nullified a little bit. Like just give the monster a lot more hit points, or give them harder AC, or that, they can only be attacked on every odd round because of some phase shifting. I think it's more fun for them to overcome obstacles than to deal with their own restrictions. Of course, there are exceptions to that, but in general, I would say do the one, not the other.
I agree.
No, I think that's definitely the better way to go about it, is to make it a little trickier. I also like to hide the bad guy from them so that they know who they're trying to get, but they can't find them.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, this is the bad guy. They're not going to just present themselves to you. Like, they know there's a group of people who would like to murder them.
They're going to stay in.
They'll meet you at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I'm calling you out, the fly. I remember what campaign I played. This was actually, I was an adult. So this was post-college. This was back with my group in Cleveland. And the other thing that I often tried to do was I was trying to steal plot lines from books and movies, which I think is a very good thing to do, but I would take them too literally. Like I would think of a cool scene and try to recreate that scene in a role-playing game, which does not work because characters are written to do a thing. And if they do something you don't think as a writer, you still get to edit it and make it make sense later. Players don't follow that script. But I was trying to do something where they were in a world where there were what I remember the name called, but there were places in the world that were cursed, and you could not heal while you were inside them. So like normal D&D healing rules did not apply if you were camped inside this space. Furthermore, if you were wounded while you were in one of those spaces, that wound would never heal, even once you vacated it. So I was trying to create these interesting scars, like someone get think Nick Fury, they get their eyeball raked out, but that will never be fixed. So they have to deal with that. And it seemed like an interesting concept. Players don't like it when you manipulate their character and then don't let them fix it. Like I think it borders the agency thing because I still have control. Like if you get hit with an arrow and you're playing a game that has targets, maybe you got hit in the eye. But when you're playing D&D that doesn't really do that, but then I implement a subsystem that I created that you can't control, and you're like, oh, I just cut your arm off. You now only have one arm for the rest of this character's life. I would never do that now. Unless we're playing Dark Discovery, because they have like magic bands that will give you like phantom arms, because I think that's cool.
Now, I will say this is the one upside to a cyberpunk game. And this is the thing. Because then they can lose limbs and stuff and put them in danger. It's one of the things that I think Rifts does well, and it's something that we kind of codify for Rifts is I love the idea of area damage, like sections.
Yeah.
Right? So that you have a mechanical way, and especially for those characters, because there's a lot of players I've seen who you think they're being rules lawyery because they want to be jerks, but they're really not. They're being rules lawyery because they need something like more concrete to hold on to that helps them suspend their disbelief in other areas, that helps them with the role play side of it. And so it gives a very like mechanical way of being like, here's danger. There's still loss without you either having to A, kind of make up mechanics to kind of make it make sense, or B, basically just kill the characters off. Like, you're not shooting for character death all the time. I see a lot of talk in D&D circles about, oh, character death. I'm like, you could do other things besides just kill them, like there's limbs and, scars and stuff, and,
Tarnish their reputation.
Yeah. And then also in Cyberpunk, you get cool robot arms.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm kind of experiencing that right now. I've been mentioning before. I'm now playing D&D with like the people I started playing with when I was 12. Like my original group, we've kind of reconnected now that I'm back in Kentucky and we're closer, and we've been playing some games together. And they still do that where when we get into a fight, they want to constantly do called shots. They're just like, well, I want to aim for his face. I want to aim for his hand. I want to disarm him. And I'm like, 5e doesn't really allow for that sort of thing because you're always assumed to be, you're always trying to hit them in the place that's going to kill them instantly. That's part of the game. So one thing I've started doing, and I don't think this is revolutionary, is I will let them do a called shot. I give them disadvantage. And depending on exactly what they're trying to do, I might even give them disadvantage and like a negative. But if they hit, it's not like an instant kill, but I give them an effect, like a status, like they may be stunned or blinded or deafened, or even like they might drop something. It's like if the wizard's got a wand and they want to called shot their hand, all right, disadvantage -5. Guess what? You shot the wand out of his hand. That doesn't mean the combat's over. You didn't I'm not gonna let you blow it up. Maybe if they're almost dead anyways, like that might be a cool final scene. But adding in effects like maybe they shoot their leg or try to pin their leg to the ground, it reduces their movement. It gives them the prone condition for a round, even though they're not technically on the ground. And I think those are ways that even within basically playing 5e, and whatever game you're playing might have additional options for that. I think that's a cool way to mitigate the I want to shoot them in the hand. Okay, but that doesn't mean you cut off their hand and now they can't fight you, so you win. It's just like, okay, you get an effect. They lose a weapon, so they got to go to their backup, which they're not as proficient. They have less bonuses to attack, that kind of thing. I think those are fun and cinematic, which is something I always go for. Have you ever had that, Chris? People who are just like, I want to call shot everything?
Not a ton. I mean, Star Wars has it where you can, but it increases the difficulty. So a lot of times it's not worth it mechanically. So I don't have to worry about it too much. Not a ton. I get more, I want to trip them. I want to throw this rope over them. I want to pull the weapon out of their hand with the rope, that kind of stuff, which I encourage. I like the creativity. But I don't get a ton of called shots. But like Alex said, I play a lot of games like Star Wars where you lose a limb. Oh, droid comes over. You hear some whirly sounds. Now you've got a mechanical leg. Get back in there. Yeah. So I don't worry about that too much. I worry more about just making sure I describe it in a way that's effective and fits what the players want. If it's Star Wars, I don't get too graphic. Oh, you hear the lightsaber. You hear You see the limb see the foot off to the side as the person falls in a different direction. Yeah.
Especially with Star Wars, with all the lightsaber flying around, and you were doing Clone Wars era.
Yeah. We didn't lose limb. No, nobody lost a limb.
There's still time on Smuggler's Blues.
Yeah. Well, they just got done hauling their load of literal shit. The players said they wanted their first run to be a test, and they wanted it to just be kind of junk. So they went to a farm and opened up a bunch of containers, and that's fertilizer. Which is funny for me. Like, you guys said you wanted it to be, shit. Guess what it was? Literally.
It actually reminds me of Firefly. I very recently went back and rewatched that series, and one of the sort of famous episodes is when they haul cattle on their the ship. I really love that episode. All right. Well, I think we'll close the book there on Used Books. That was a very lively discussion. Thank you for sharing that story with us, Alex. And I hope anyone listening, if you have thoughts about what you did or what we talked about, obviously you can email the show, the RPG Academy at Gmail. You can comment on the Twitter or Facebook posts when these episodes get posted on the internet. Maybe you can come back next time we do this every other week, Wednesday night, live around 8 p.m. and share with us in chat live. But we're going to move on to Where Have My Fingers Been? And this is our second improv game. And this is where we are going to, what's going on? One of these days I'm going to get this right, but today is not the day. Sorry. There we go. So we're going to play a little game. We're going to take turns prompting each other again. The idea is that we will prompt each other to create an improv scene involving 2 or more people, and we're going to sort of puppeteer and mime it out. Alex, you once again are the guest, so would you like to go first in terms of prompting Chris or I to start, or being prompted to start?
I think I'll prompt first.
All right, so don't start yet, but do you want to prompt Chris or myself? It's your choice.
Let's do Michael.
All right. So before we go, we have to honor New York Tater. He will send us nasty emails if we do not sing the song. So it is, where have my fingers been? I said, where have my fingers been?
Okay, Michael, there is a game shop owner and someone who is trying to buy all of your dice.
Ooh.
And you're trying to stop them.
Okay. Yeah, welcome. This is Gamers Haven. It's the best friendly local game store in the greater Seattle, Washington, I don't know, area. Yeah, I've heard all about your store. I've been watching Critical Role. I've been watching Tabletop. I've been, this podcast called the RPG Academy I really like, and I think I want to start playing role-playing games. Oh, you have come to the right place, my friend. I have a wide selection of all kinds of games, including, of course, D&D, but many, many others. Do you know what you want to play? The one where you roll dice. Well, yeah, I mean, like most of them, but not all of them. Most of them roll dice. I would say pick a favorite color. We have some different types. There's like silicone, which are kind of bouncy. There's plastic, which are durable. Metal, which are very heavy. Yes. Okay. So, I mean, over here's my selection. If you'd like to just take a moment. No, I'll take all of them. All of them? Yeah. Literally every single dice you have in the store. It's an aside to the audience. I'm conflicted because as a game store owner and a small business owner, this is a huge sale. But at the same time, what the hell? Back to the person. Will that be cash or charge? Where have my fingers been? Hey!
Which is exactly how I would have done it in real life. Like, are you sure? Okay.
Yeah. I worked in retail for a long time, and the number one lesson I learned as now a small business owner is if someone's trying to give you money, let them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So to finish the chain, I will prompt Chris, and then Chris will finish off by prompting you. So Chris, sing the song, sir.
Where have my fingers been? I said, where have my fingers been?
Your fingers are trying to convince a smuggler to take a load off of them and smuggle it.
Okay. All right. So this cargo is very valuable, but my ship's broke, so you need to take it. Why me? I've heard about your reputation. From who? People. Which people? All of them. I've never been to this planet before. Well, other planets. The other places I've been to. Like which ones? Like Earth. Earth. Never heard of it. It's to the west of here. West. Yeah. I think I'm gonna pass. No, really. It smells great. It's something everybody wants, and you'll love it. I don't think so. I'll buy all your dice. Sold. And that's where my fingers are.
That's really excellent. All right. So Chris will now prompt you, Alex. Again, please sing the song for us.
Where have my fingers been? Where have my fingers been?
All right. Let's go with 2 guys planning their trip to a catacon.
Okay, so you keep buying tickets to a catacon and you never manage to make it. I know, leave me alone. It's not my fault. Something comes up every year. I know, but this year, nothing will come up. You will go to a catacon. Now, how are we going to get there? I was thinking by train. Why train? I don't know. I like trains. Okay, maybe something with less likelihood of derailing or having something go wrong. Okay, we could go by car. That is the least popular. Nope, you'll get into a wreck. You are coming to a catacon. Okay. Wait, I've got it. I found my ring of teleport. Well, yes, that is the most effective way to get to a catacomb. And that's where my finger
Yay!
Hey.
That was, in fact, two people talking about a catacomb. All right, so we're going to move, if I can, there we go. So we're going to move into cryptozoology, and this is where we're going to talk about a monster. It's usually in D&D, but does not have to be, and it is not tonight. We talk about maybe some ways we have used this creature in the past, if we have, and then we brainstorm some ways that maybe we could use this creature going forward. Alex, you are the guest tonight, so did you bring us a monster to talk about?
We are going to talk about Sasquatch, because I am from the Pacific Northwest, and I do love me some local cryptids.
All right, so if you're watching the stream, there's now a giant Sasquatch covering Chris and I. All right,
Hey.
so I think we've actually talked about Sasquatch fairly recently, but I don't remember for sure, and it's totally fine, because every conversation is different. But give us the lowdown. What is the general lore on the Sasquatch?
There is so many different versions of the lore on the Sasquatch. In fact, there's a whole thing with the tribes out on the Olympic Peninsula about that. Has also been a mascot for various Seattle sports teams. So it's
Also,
it's thought,
Jack Link's jerky, I think.
yes, that it's thought to be a proto-human, like a prehistoric humanoid figure that is out in the woods somewhere, either in British Columbia or here in Washington or Oregon, and in the deep, because we, like most people don't realize, we have deciduous rainforests here that like are completely unexplored. Like you just can't get into them; they're too far. And so there's lots of places where Sasquatch could be hiding if Sasquatch wanted to hide. But that's kind of the background. I love Sasquatch.
Okay, so I guess my first question: are Sasquatch real, Alex?
I mean, maybe.
Okay.
It wouldn't shock me.
All
If
right.
they were if tomorrow they were like, hey, by the way, there's like this 100 square mile area and there's a tribe of these things, like it wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah, I'm of two minds because my instant reaction is no, because we've been looking too long. There are TV shows about it, that if there was one out there, we would have some hardcore evidence and not this like shaky cam. My camera fell and just happened to catch this one thing walking across for 2 seconds. But at the same time, like every now and then we get these things where like, hey, we just found an entire temple, like a Mayan temple that was in a rainforest that was like 3 blocks from a mall that was, buried in a landslide. So it's like we are constantly discovering things about our planet that you would think, well, we've already discovered everything about our planet other than maybe in the ocean. But like, no, we are constantly finding things we never knew about. So I guess it is possible, to your point, that there's just a very remote part of our planet that doesn't seem interesting enough on the outside to generate, exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what's in there? What about you, Chris? Are you a Squatch watcher?
No.
Okay.
I think that we've explored too much. There's too many drones. There's too many hunters' cameras. There's too many trail cams that somebody would have found something. Unless the government has them in a bunker somewhere and they're experimenting,
Yeah.
which could be.
Also possible.
Also very possible. All right.
Or
So
maybe they turn invisible and we can't see them.
yeah, exactly. They're
That too.
riding purple dinosaurs. All right. So Alex, so then if you were going to use a Sasquatch in a game, like what purpose are they going to serve? Is it a bag of hit points that the players need to kill? Is it something they need to track and catch? Is it something they need to learn from? Is it have information they need to get from it? Like, what do you think, or have you used these in the past in some way you want to share?
I love using them in modern games with like as kind of a foil to almost like your Cthulhu-esque old ones, right? I like the idea that Sasquatch would be like the wise, like people who truly understand what the old ones are and know how they could defeat them, right? But are prevented from doing so for some reason. I like monsters that aren't monsters.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love this to be a situation where the players almost get tricked into thinking they should be hunting the Sasquatch, but the Sasquatch is really the one that they need to finish the game, for
Okay.
lack of a better term.
So sort of the situation where it's like, the only thing that can kill me is a Sasquatch. So I'm going to hire this group of adventurers and convince them they have to kill the Sasquatch so that my evil plan can succeed.
Exactly. You got it.
Awesome. All right, Chris, any thoughts? Again, have you ever used a Sasquatch before? And if not, any thoughts on how you might use them in the future?
No, no. I feel like though when you were talking about how you run the Sasquatch, I think that's how they kind of describe in the Dresden books. They're kind of smart. They're very old. They have
Yeah,
some magic.
I'm familiar with the Dresden as far as them existing, but I've never
Mhm.
actually read the books.
Oh, you should. They're very good.
I'll have to take a look at those.
Yeah, I mean, because some are good, some are bad, just like every different creature on Earth in those books. So, I like kind of like Alex. I like using monsters in a unique way. So I would do something beyond just the normal. It's Bigfoot. He's mad. He's Hulk smashing everything. Instead, I'd have him. He's just out there in the woods trying to do his thing. Maybe he's protecting a small area of the forest that's got something important there. Something like that. Or do a Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah.
Your horse
Ooh.
runs into one and you've got to take him back and heal him, and he becomes part of the family.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I also think along the lines of like a monster squad, but rather than a bunch of kids finding Dracula, they find a Sasquatch. So it's sort of like Harry and the Hendersons, but it's a bit more Goonies-esque than than the Harry Henderson movie. But it is like there's an adventure, there's potentially a hunter, or maybe like a scientist who's like the evil version who wants to exploit them in some way. So you have to find them, you have to protect them, and get them to someplace safe or safe, or maybe like you rent the Sasquatch costume to get captured to like make it seem like the scientist was like scamming people. Like you could do like a non supernatural kids on bikes sort of situation where the Sasquatch is the only semi supernatural or unnatural part of it. Everything else is just modern day, but you befriend the Sasquatch and have to keep them safe in some way. I also think there's probably some like very lighthearted games. I actually, in my youth, I'd come up with an idea for a short story that I never actually wrote that was about a Bigfoot coming to the city and hiring a lawyer to sue for being called Bigfoot because they felt that mischaracterized them because their feet were not big for their size. And so it was like a lawyer drama where this lawyer had to represent Bigfoot in court. In my head, they would eventually win the case, and then it would end with all these other supernatural monsters like forming up like leprechauns and unicorns and Draculas, and they were all lining up to get this person to represent them as well for all their various slanders and libels over the years. All right. So anything else, any other ideas for Sasquatch use that you can think of, Alex? And it can be any game, so it can be like a D&D where it is a monster, or it could be any RPG, or maybe not even a specific RPG, but just like a general style of game where they might be interesting.
I hadn't thought of the Harry and the Hendersons approach, and so now my brain is going like full on sitcom mode,
Mm-hmm.
especially. And now that you've described your lawyer drama, I'm like, oh my god, you could do. There's so many fun things you could do as like a palate cleanser.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like those types of games, like when you're in like a deep, heavy campaign to like be like, all right, we're gonna take 2 weeks and do like a palate cleanser and bring it back down to zero. So I love the idea of using them in a comedic way.
You could do a Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
Right? Where it's not actually a guy in a mask, but they learn that it is actually a real Sasquatch.
Or you could even go as far as it is a guy in the mask.
Right.
And then just as the game ends, they hear a sound in the woods. It's just like Bigfoot. And they're like, oh, is it really him? Or is it somebody now goofing off again? And, leave that little mystery out there.
I know I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I really like that.
I know there are several games that sort of simulate that ghost hunter. Like you could play a Ghostbusters game. I think Tracy has a game called like Ghost Bros or something where you play a bunch of bros who are like ghost hunters. But I'm sure there's various games where you could just reflavor it to your Sasquatch. There probably is. If I Google find Sasquatch RPG, there's probably something on itch right now that you could play, probably with D6s. It should be D12s, but people just aren't smart yet. But I mean, you could definitely have like a one shot, somebody doesn't make it, you can't play your campaign. Let's hunt Bigfoot for, 3 hours in an improv heavy game. That could be fun.
Yeah. I mean, you could go, dark too, that somebody's hired the crew to go out and get a Bigfoot because they need, they need the Bigfoot for some sort of ritual. And then the players have to determine, oh, wait, this was actually just a harmless creature that we just captured to bring back.
Mm-hmm.
and now we're going to complete this ritual, or are we going to stop the bad guy?
Yeah.
Maybe they
Or
just
they
need
just-
the toenail of the Bigfoot
Yeah,
or,
that'd
or
be
some
all right.
hair.
Yeah.
A
Or a high five.
a gland. Like
There you
they
go.
have a
I'm
scent
just wondering-
gland.
Wondering how they're going to get the toenail.
Yeah. I mean, then
Very
you
quietly.
have the scene where you go into like the stereotypical mani-pedi store, and you have Bigfoot dressed in like a sundress and a big hat bonnet, getting a pedicure or pedicure, and then like they take the clippings. Like you could do a lot with that in both silly and serious ways.
Absolutely.
All right. So as always, we'll throw it to the audience, anyone watching now or in the future. If you have ever used a Sasquatch in your game, or if you think of a fun way to use one, please let us know. Email the show, the RPG Academy at Gmail, again, or comment on this episode whenever and wherever it's posted. All right. So that moves us into our last segment. This is our audience Q&A. And we haven't had anybody chatting. I'm not sure if anybody's watching right now, but if you are, lurking's totally fine. But we have a section at the end where if you have any questions that you'd like to ask any or all of us, should probably be RPG related, but they don't have to be, but we reserve the right not to answer them. But while we're waiting, because there's a bit of a delay for any questions to come in, one more time, we'll kind of go around the horn. You can give your socials, and we'll start with you, Alex. Also, if you have any light plugs for projects you're a part of or just places you want to send people, feel free, sir.
Well, as I mentioned, I want to do a light plug because Action 12 Cinema,
I've heard of
there
that.
is a piece of art that I am particularly happy with. I did the thing at the art level because I have been following this for a while and I wanted to support. And I love the piece that Michael's artist has done for it. And so I was like, oh, we got to plug that for at least a second.
All right. So let me pull up. I'm actually going to add it to.
To OBS?
Yeah, I'm going to try to. Yep. All right. So I have now added it to OBS so people can see it. It's not the greatest resolution, but basically that is an image of you and your dog Lucy parachuting into a war zone.
With a cigar and a machine gun.
Yes, with a machine, and you're getting fire all around you, but you're only worried about all the people you're about to kill. So yes.
Yes. So I love that piece. I'm super excited to see it in the book when I get my copy of the book. So, aside from that, I do so much content these days. I do a morning talk show about video games and entertainment and movies and everything, kind of like the Today Show for nerds, over on our YouTube channel for the stores. That's youtube.com/gamersheaven. And then obviously I'm still doing Chaos Inc. with Michael and Kaylee and Caleb and Dot. We just ended season 2. And we're about to start season 3 in the middle of July. So July 18th, I think, is when we're coming back.
Nice. And is that every week, every other week? How does that roll?
Every other Tuesday at, most of your viewers might be in 6 o'clock Pacific or 9 o'clock Eastern.
Okay.
Is when that game starts. And so it's a nice, tight 2-hour show. We don't go too long. There's a cooking segment approximately every episode and a quarter, because Caleb is involved.
Yes.
So there will be cooking, but it's more than sandwiches. He's branched out.
Oh,
so
he's
much.
broadened his palate.
Yes. Oh yes. No, there is whole screens about charcuterie boards and putting together charcuterie boards. Breakfast is a very popular topic.
Yeah.
And the various pastries and things that he brings to breakfast.
So slightly off topic, but I'm now part of the TikTok generation. I watch TikTok all the time. It's bad for me, but I do it. And I have yet to find, but I'm sure they're out there, but I would watch just like a YouTube channel that is nothing but a top-down view of like a Waffle House and just watch short order cooks do their thing. I love watching, like there's all these like Blackstone things, but I'm cooking some on Blackstone. I love those griddle top cooking things. I just want a whole YouTube channel of nothing but that. I'm sure they're out there. I've not found one. If you know of one, send it to me, because I really would. That would be just like my anxiety. Like I'm feeling anxious or I'm just trying to go to sleep. I'd like 30 minutes of just watching some dude or some dudette, like, throw hash and cook eggs. And I want the old style order, like barbecue burger naked or walking through the garden. Like I want all that as part of it. That is my jam.
Nice.
All right.
The question is, have you found your way to crockpot TikTok yet?
There's one guy that I watch. He's like this old Southern Cajun guy, and he does a bunch of like crock pot recipes. He's like, this is better than your mama's cooking. And then he just like jumps into it, and he says he calls it the watch your sister sauce. He's that guy.
Oh yeah, eventually you're going to find yourself on the cream cheese in everything crockpot TikTok.
Not there yet, but probably on my way. Mostly, I'll be honest, most of what I get is cat videos. I spend more time with my cat than anyone in my family. My wife makes fun of the fact that I have more pictures of the cat than anyone else, and somehow TikTok knows that about me, so I'm constantly getting TikTok videos. We did have someone just jump in the chat, DogDad78, saying, hey, good job on the show, Alex. So we agree. We also think he's done a good job. All right. So, Chris, where can people find you? Any plugs you'd like to send people to?
Twitter, Burlew_Chris. Catch me tomorrow doing Dragonlance right here, doing the Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Boy, I've run it for several weeks and I still can't remember the name of it. Otherwise, every other Monday, back to doing Redemption. It's now called Smuggler's Blues, a redemption story. Every other Wednesday here. And then Diablo 4 if you're on. Let me know.
Do you have like a tagger? Like if somebody wanted to play with you, how would they find you?
Find me on Discord.
Okay.
Through the RPG Academy, because I'd have to find because you have a BattleNet name and then you have a name in the game, and I don't remember which is which.
Fair enough. So yeah, so plug the Discord. It's a closed community. We'll invite anyone, but you do have to ask for an invite. You can't just find the link anywhere, but you can hit us on Twitter, Facebook, email, say, hey, I want to join the Discord. We'll get you there. As for myself, of course, most of what I can do can be found at the RPG Academy. If you search the RPG Academy pretty much anywhere, you should find us. Mostly we're an audio-only podcast. We do streaming on occasion, a couple different shows. We also have some things on YouTube, which is usually just the transfers from Twitch. Like we don't do any straight to YouTube stuff, but anything on YouTube used to be on Twitch. I was streaming video games for a while, but summer's just too hard with the kids. I don't have the time, but once school starts back, I might get back into doing that. And then Action 12 Cinema. Again, it's the game I wrote. It's all about V-level actions and D12 dice. We just got done with editing. It's going into layout. We're hoping to go to printers somewhere around August. I'm going to guess it's going to take 6 months to get it back, so it's probably still going to be early next year before we deliver. But you can pre-order right now. As soon as you do, you'll get the most recent update of the PDF, and then you can still get the physical copy if you would like later. I would absolutely love for more people to do that, and you can find that at the RPG Academy. All right, so we didn't have any questions come in. If someone has any they want to add, feel free. But there's one question we ask everybody. So in case we get no others in, we'll ask you this one. Alex, imagine that you were being turned into an action figure, not physically transformed, but they're going to make an action figure about Alex. What are the 3 accessories that are going to come in your packaging?
All right. So again, I'm bad. Okay. Horrible habits. So first thing is going to be a pack of cigarettes.
Oh, man. That's never going to get past the censors. You can't sell that to kids.
I know. It's terrible. We're just going to pretend it's the 80s. When we could sell that stuff to kids.
Or it's like candy cigarettes, which is still awful. And you can still get those in some places, by the way.
Can you? Okay.
Yes.
Let's see. That. I need physical items, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, my dog.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, there'd be a little mini dog action figure with me.
Perfect.
Right. And then the last thing would. That's really hard. I don't have a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? Like I don't. Probably like a phone.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Most of us have.
If I was an action, because I have to stay so plugged in all the time, and my wife is always yelling at me about being constantly plugged into everything, because we do all the pop culture stuff and everything else. So, yeah, probably phone, pack, cigarettes, and my dog.
Mine has changed a little bit over time. I would say right now mine would be 3 different pairs of glasses, because I constantly lose my glasses. So I have like 6 pairs of reading glasses. I have 2 pair of like computer distance glasses, and I have 3 pair of long distance for driving or for watching TV in bed. So I have so many pairs of glasses, it is ridiculous.
So when you spend $800 on a pair, you won't lose them.
Yeah, I have not done that yet, but I've spent more than I want to. I've spent $800 total on my 9 pairs, but not $800 on one pair for sure.
I am a Costco glasses guy.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I do, like when I do wear glasses, which I don't typically, I wear contacts most of the time, but when I do, I lose them so frequently that I feel bad spending. Like I used to have really expensive sunglasses of all kinds of like stylish kinds when I was in my 20s. And then I started losing them all. So now I buy $20 ones on Amazon.
Yeah, I'm kind of more in your park right now, but I'm getting worse. Like every day, I feel like my eyes are getting worse. But we're in old man talk now, so we're gonna sign off here. Alex, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate
Thank you for
it.
having me.
And seriously, thank you for the support you've shown to Academaniacs literally almost every year. One of these days, we are going to have you come out. Also, thank you again for Action 12 Cinema. Again, you threw some money that way to get that art, but it's not worth what you paid for it, and I appreciate that as well. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Chris and I, hopefully we'll have some more guests with us there. Hopefully anyone listening now in the future, thank you for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. And then just remember, if you're having fun,
You're doing it right.
thanks, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.